America, but to the in the back is a French bistro, Dominican chef, Italian restaurant, Boricua chef, Chinese takeout, Mexican chef, New America, but to the in the back. Brown walks your baby, brown walks your dog, brown raised America, picks all its mom, brown cleans your house, brown takes the trash, brown even whips your granddaddy's ass.
Hi, I'm Elia Einhorn. Welcome to the Talkhouse Music Podcast. Here at the Talkhouse, we pair notable musicians for thoughtful, unmoderated conversations and release new talks each week. Regular listeners will have caught recent episodes like Questlove in conversation with Slater Kinney and Portlandia's Carrie Brownstein, or Jerobi White from A Tribe Called Quest talking with producer Starita about the late great Fife Dog. Check out these and all of our past episodes and subscribe to get new ones on Stitcher or iTunes. Today's guests are Ladybug Mecca of Diggable Planets and Brookzil and Xenia Rubinos. I first heard Xenia Rubinos' amazing music when my friend and Talkhouse Music Podcast contributor Ian Williams of Battles invited me to his band's Webster Hall show. He'd handpicked the opener, and it was a fitting cosign. Xenia and her ace band splashed together prog rock, jazz, pop, indie rock, Latin, and hip-hop with no regard for genre, just their own creative vision. As she said, I think my signature sound is a collage of different musics coming together on a visceral level, connecting the dots with my voice and imagination. Rubinos studied singing at the prestigious Berklee College of Music in Boston, and her voice is a weapon she wields to devastating effect, whether singing in English or Spanish. Last year's Black Terry Cat, her second LP, was a critical success that explored themes of race, class, and femininity, all while being a great party record. Marianne Vieira, better known as Ladybug Mecca, co-founded the massively influential, Grammy-winning hip-hop outfit Diggable Planets. In the mid-90s, the group released two genre-defining LPs of jazz-inflected conscious rhymes. 1993's Reachin', A New Refutation of Time and Space, and 1994's Blowout Comb. And their track Rebirth of Slick, Cool Like That, became a massive hit. Mecca went on to release a solo joint in 2005, and has guested with artists like Kool-A.D. and Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Last year, Diggable Planets embarked on a successful reunion tour. Along with legendary hip-hop producer Prince Paul, Don Newkirk, and Brazilian MC Gorilla Urbano, Mecca formed the hip-hop Brazilian music mashup group Brookzil. That project's 2016 debut LP, Throwback to the Future, saw Mecca, who's of Brazilian descent, rapping in both Portuguese and English. Xenia glowingly reviewed the Brookzil record for the Talkhouse, calling it a bilingual sound system banger from start to finish. When we heard that Mecca also loves Rubinos' work but that they'd never met, we thought a Talkhouse chat would be the perfect occasion. The two came by my studio late last month to mutually fan out and discuss how travel triggers creativity, being the only women in their touring parties, singing to their dying parents, the inherent difficulties of collaborating, their early audiences not reflecting themselves, and so much more. Check it out. Chinese takeout, Mexican chef, New America, but to the in the back.
Hi.
Hi.
It's so amazing to finally meet you in person. I'm a huge fan.
Likewise.
I was listening to both your solo record, the Light Fantastic.
Yeah.
I was Trip the Light Fantastic. I was listening to that record a lot while I was making this last record, and then also Blowout Comb.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Blowout Comb was like, I walked in the studio one day and our engineer, Jeremy Lucas, was playing Blowout Comb, and I'd never heard it. And I was like, what is this? What's going on? And he's like, oh, you don't know this? And then that just like triggered this whole other thing. So
cool.
Yeah. It's
wow. That's wow. That's all I can say is wow. I mean, like I follow you on Instagram and I see little snippets of your live shows and I've heard your album and I'm just blown away. So wow, like it's an honor that if it inspired you in any kind of way, that's pretty
oh my gosh,
cool.
so much.
Cool.
So much. Yeah. So much. I was going to ask you about just how you got into this whole music thing to begin with, like how you got mixed up in all this stuff, because you've done so much. You've had such a amazing career, from being a lyricist, a vocalist, singer, a writer, DJing too. So many things. Performing, touring, recording. How did you first get mixed up in all this?
Well, first and foremost, at home, I mean, music was a huge part of life. You know, being Brazilian, like it's such a strong part of our culture. And my mother, she sang around like the DC circuit and like the Brazilian community at different clubs and stuff and contests. I was way too young to remember, but I've seen photos, and she would sing around the house, and my father played like acoustic guitar and keys, and so it was a huge part of life. So I instantly gravitated towards it, and growing up, I would sit at my father's keys and just figure out how to play like songs that I knew like by myself, and that was like a daily thing for me. And then, grew up just obviously a huge fan of all kinds of music. And in like my later 2 years of high school, I found myself traveling to like Philly, and I grew up in the DC, Maryland area, but like my 11th and 12th grade year, we moved pretty far from the area. So I would take like the bus down to DC to music conferences and just meet people. And eventually I met like Knowledge and Ish and Philly. And secretly, like no one really knew, but I was writing like my observations, is what I called it, of like life since I was young, and kept it in like a bag tucked away somewhere. And after like kicking it with them and discussing music and hip hop in particular, for like a couple weeks in Philly, we all just sat down to like write. And from there it was, we did a demo, and then living in New York City, signed a deal, made the record, and it just kind of blew up from there like pretty quickly.
That's incredible. So these kind of like these journals or these books that you would have of your observation, so that you just kept on the low, did that kind of inform some of the first flows and your writing?
I didn't directly like reference those, but those observations are who I am and how I see the world. So yeah, I guess it did by that.
Did you ever get to go back and kind of rediscover some of those things, or did you kind of just let them go?
No, like in my travels, I was young. I was like 18, 19. In my travels, I lost a lot of shit along the shit I wish I had like now. Yeah. But yeah, I don't have any of that stuff.
Do you still journal?
Yeah, I do.
I love it, but I'm really bad at keeping like that discipline of doing it all the time. But when I don't do it,
I'm not disciplined at all.
Me neither. But when I don't do it, I'm like, and then I journal after a long time. I'm like, why did I stop doing this?
Right. Because that feeling you get, like, it's so wonderful and magical when you just connect with that thread and that stream. It's like, I was going to say scary, but it's not really scary, but it's powerful, so it can be a little intimidating. But I've gone through like different phases of, waking up in the morning and just free writing without thinking about anything, and you're doing that for a while. But I'm definitely not disciplined like you. What I find I'm really inspired by is like when I get in my car and drive, like movement and travel, and I'll get in my car and drive and just whatever. I'm always in my head. I'm very like always in my head. So something will come across and I'll pull over wherever and just write, Yeah, that's kind of like a regular practice for me.
Why do you think that is about? What do you think that is about travel that helps us? Because that happens to me too. It kind of unblocks my my where I'm at, but I don't really know why that is. What do you think?
For me, I think I can overthink a lot. Like if I'm in the writing process and if I get stuck, I tend to overthink. So I try to break that by going, just doing something else. But even if I'm not working on something though, just moving around. I mean, I'm inspired by my environment. I'm inspired by like little fine details of like a tree or a bush or whatever, and like all that stuff kind of inspires me. I don't know. I can't. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I feel you. You've done a lot of touring throughout the years too, and traveling, moving around a lot. I find that in my travels, I'm often surrounded by a lot of dudes, and I'm usually the only woman. And I actually never realized that that was a thing even until like a couple months went by.
Okay.
And I started like, someone was asking me to like sign records, and I started drawing like vaginas on people's records. And I'm like, why am I doing that? That's so weird. And then I realized, and I was only listening to like Erykah Badu like every day.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's going on with me? Like, and I realized I needed to actually see another woman, you know, like I would see at shows and stuff sometimes, but I was surrounded by men all the time. How do you keep, what's your experience been? And how do you keep, do you have ways that you, even just in traveling, like that you try to keep your center or like keep a balance for yourself?
Yeah. I can't say that. I mean, I too have always been like the only woman.
Yeah.
Back in the day, but I was like a tomboy growing up, so like it's not really like a noticeable. It's not uncomfortable. It's not like a problem, but I do find myself like alone a lot. Like you know, the guys will go and do whatever, and then which I'm very comfortable being alone. But it does get a little lonely if you're out on the road for like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
But I don't, you know, like I said, I don't feel uncomfortable in that situation at all. I like to explore like whatever town I'm in. If I have time, you know, get up early enough to just explore. And that's kind of what I do to be able to enjoy myself, because I am alone a lot, you know. Yeah.
What in music, so you have so many roles, like, you know, you're a lyricist, you're a vocalist, you write, you DJ, you're a recording artist, you tour, you perform. Do you have a favorite of those spheres that you work in? Do you like...
Yeah, I can't say that I particularly love one that much more than the other. I think I love them all for different reasons. But if I had to pick one, I would say like the creative process, you know, and just being like in tune with myself and what I'm feeling, and being able to find the words, you know, in a cool way to express that, you know. And, you know, when you kind of, well, I at least feel like I know when I write something really dope and it's exciting, you know. So I don't know, maybe that. Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm kind of shy, so like performing is cool. I don't hate it. I like it a lot, but like
I don't hate it. I like it a lot, but I'm shy. That's like so many contradictory statements, but I actually completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I get it.
All right.
I totally get it. Yeah. It's like I actually forget how much I like it until then I'm doing it. I don't know if that happens to you. Like, and then I'm like, oh, I actually like doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff around it that I don't like.
I think finding like, you know, just kind of balancing it all out, you know, kind of just makes it bearable, interesting.
Yeah, I feel that.
So tell me, I want to know.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm just gonna keep asking you everything.
No, I want to know. I want to know how, you know, like how did you get called to making music or pulled into making music?
It was kind of similar to what you described, except that my family was not playing instruments and they were not musicians, but there was always music in my household, and my dad was Cuban, my mom's Puerto Rican, and just music is a part of every day and like every family function, and that's just, you know, there's always music.
Yeah.
And my father was really a huge classical music fan. And the moment that he saw I had any interest at all was just like, oh, she's going to be a concert pianist, or she's going to be an opera singer. So he got really excited and thought that. But I just wanted to listen to Mariah Carey. And
Pops.
I was like, I'm not really down with this thing.
How does he feel about your career now?
Well, my dad passed away just right before I released this album, actually. So he didn't get to see some of the recent stuff. I don't think, you know, for my dad, like modern music was like Stravinsky. or something. So I don't. When he heard my music, he was like, I don't know what's going on. Like he was very sensitive to sound though, because he was listening to classical music. So he was really sensitive to listening to like textures and things. So he would always give like really perceptive feedback about like some textural things that were happening in the music.
Okay.
But I think it sounded like kind of rough to him, and abstract, like some of the stuff that I was getting into. But he would say like, oh, you have a sweet voice or whatever. But I would always be really embarrassed to sing in front of him or to sing to him.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe because, I don't know, he's such like a discerning music fan. And I just always felt like, when I was a kid, he would say like, oh, you don't have the discipline to be a musician. Because he would be also thinking about, in some ways, I guess that's the question of my life is like, is he right? Like, maybe he's right,
Okay.
But also he was thinking about it in this like, becoming part of an orchestra or, part of a touring opera company or like, being the most prolific snare player in your entire city or something like that in a really old school way. So when he's looking at me and I'm like 12 or whatever, and I'm into Mariah Carey and I'm like, trying to learn how to play music, like learn how to read music for the first time. He's like, So I think maybe that kind of made me a little nervous about singing in front of him. But in his last days, I sang to him every day.
Really?
Every single day.
I did that. Both my parents passed away, and during like the making of Blow Out Come, my mother was sick and passed away. But I would do the exact same thing. I would take her out into the sun, and we would sit in the sun, and I would just sing to her every day.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So now you play several instruments, right?
Well, my voice is my primary instrument.
Okay.
But I get by okay on the keyboards.
Okay.
And I started playing bass on this record. I played bass on a bunch of it and wrote a lot of the songs on bass.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't consider myself to be like a bass player or a keyboardist.
Okay.
My mastery is my voice, I think.
Okay. What is your like writing process like?
It's usually just improvisation based. I usually just start by either vocalizing or playing on an instrument, and then try to listen to what's happening. Like I just go, and then I start to listen, and then usually there's some kind of a pattern or something that starts to happen, and then I notice it and I repeat it until I find out more about it.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to figure out what's happening next. So that's kind of usually my process. And a lot of times it involves having no words at all. Like words are usually the last thing that come for me.
Okay.
And it's really challenging. On this last record, I tried to do the opposite. I tried to start with words first. And that was like so challenging for me. How
far did you get with that? I mean,
well, I wrote a couple songs like that.
Okay.
Like I wrote Mexican Chef is a song on my last record that I wrote. It was the first time I ever wrote lyrics first.
Okay.
For something. But that was so frightening because, well, that one I fooled myself because I was just like, this is just a story. I'm going to throw it away. Like no one's going to ever hear this. So if I fool myself into thinking like I'm not doing, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Then that's easier for me.
Okay.
But yeah. And I was just listening to you. I was listening to Kendrick and listening to people who I consider to be wordsmiths and trying to find some of that inspiration from y'all.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah. It's not easy. How about you? What's your process like?
Oh man. A lot of what you said, like I could be just doing random things around the house, like doing dishes or something, and my kids think I'm crazy, but I don't know. I do the same kind of thing, like just starting off with sounds, noises, a rhythm, a beat, and just sometimes it's just me, so I like do it and it doesn't turn into anything. Or sometimes like I develop it further, like you said, and find lyrics. Sometimes I write lyrics first. Sometimes like if I collaborate with other people, I'll get a beat, and whatever the emotion or the mood of that, beat is, it will really dictate like what I write. and also like the cadence, the rhythms, just different things. I don't know. I can't really explain it, but like different things will just inspire me, and I'll to write. But I definitely have to feel it. I mean, there's been people that ask to like collaborate with me, and if I don't feel it, like I can't force it. Something I definitely can't do is force.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about collaboration actually, because it's something I'm really curious about, but I haven't done much of. I'm very new to that.
Did you just collaborate with King like recently?
Well,
or you're going to,
King Britt is amazing. I want to.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, they ask you like, hey, who's your like dream collaborations? And then I just like make a list of people that I wish, and he's on there. You're on there.
Okay.
And I went down to Philly. Yeah, I gotta do it. Went down to Philly and I just had a session with King and he's a friend and you know, we're exploring in music, but hopefully I'll get to go down again soon.
Okay.
Meet up with him. But yeah, I'm really curious about collaboration because I tend to spend a lot of time alone writing music, and I always think about it primarily as a really solitary process.
Yeah, exactly.
And
like I can't write like with the group of people. Like like just the thought of it really scares me. Yeah, people do that,
and I'm just like, how y'all banging this stuff out? Like,
I
what
was
is
just
that?
thinking about that lately. Like I was going to research like how do people write in a group? Like I'm curious. Like I like it frightens me. Like I can't. It is a very personal. Because I like even when I'm at home and I'm writing, like I cannot be distracted by anyone, like or anything, and like I could get mad if like that happens.
I feel you.
Like especially like when you're like in that zone, and, So yeah, it is a very like personal thing for me, but like, and I mean everyone's different, right? Yeah,
that's right. So I don't know, what's your experience been in collaboration? I know, well, you reference like someone sending you a beat or something like that. For me, it's a little scary because I think a lot of times I have this vision of what I, like this goal or like this thing that I have in my mind that I want to accomplish. And then it's tricky to translate whatever that is that you have in your mind to other people to accomplish.
Right.
And other times, even if you want to work with someone, you're projecting this self of them that you think that they are, but they're not that thing, right? So you might think, oh, I want to call this person, or this has happened to me, where someone calls me into the studio to do a thing. And then I see how they see me because they're expecting this very specific, and I'm like, oh, that's what you think I do. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right?
I've had that experience. Like some like people like all over the globe will, I want to work with you. I'm gonna send you, and they'll give me like a jazz hip hop beat. Like, but like that's not all I do, you know. But like, I like get tired of it, and I've turned things down. Like, like I'm not stuck like in the 90s, I'm not stuck in like region, like I'm like, I don't know, like I'm somewhere else.
You're on your own thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not the only one that feels that way. Okay.
No.
That's so tricky.
But yeah, and then you can't control, the situation. Like when you go in to collaborate with people, like it's scary, and you, but it's also like a beautiful thing. Like, I mean, I've been in sessions, like hear the music, like even back in like, say Blog Home days, I was traveling a lot back and forth to Maryland, as my mother was transitioning. And so I would, come to the studio, I would get like whatever song we were working on, like on a cassette. Or a CD and like put it in and like go into the stairwell of the studio and just write like my verse right there. Like I can't be like in the room with like people. Now I've been able to be like one-on-one with certain people, and like write, but it's still like we're not writing together. We're not like sharing words. Like I'm kind of like, okay, this is what I have, and they're like, I love it,
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can do that with everyone. It's like a scary thing for me.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I find that to be true as well. Like I really need my own personal space.
Yeah. And
it's like, I think it must be some other skill. People who can just kind of bang out these ideas in front of each other, just like.
I'm like that's really cool though to me. It's like pretty cool. Like I wonder if I'm like missing out on like.
I wonder that too.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not though.
I guess.
Maybe it's just not for. I don't know. It could just.
Or
not
the
be for
grass
us.
always looks
I don't
greener
know.
on the other side.
Yeah,
I guess.
I don't know. I was curious how you. I really admire your aesthetic, or what I perceive to be some of your aesthetic that I've heard in your music, in terms of like bringing different kinds of music together. I think I identify with having an ear for many different kinds of musics and not being so preoccupied about style or genre or culture or
Right.
ethnicity or where things are coming from. I
Right.
really identify with that. And I wonder, right now it feels to be a time, at least in this country for me, where everyone is celebrating their differences and calling out like where they're from or who they like, what their cultural identity is, which is really cool. But there's also this like flip side of that where it's feeling very divisive or divisive.
Okay.
Like it's really awesome that we're all like, I'm a woman, I'm, transgender,
Right.
I'm Puerto Rican,
Right.
I'm like, and like pride, and that's awesome. But on the flip side, it kind of feels like there's more divisions than ever. And sometimes I like to wonder how like this musical aesthetic of bringing in all these different things and seeing the commonality in all of them, like how could that help us inform the way we engage with people culturally? Could that be the same thing, or is it totally different?
I view things a little different. Like I feel like, okay, yes, we're in a moment where everyone is, celebrating like who they are, but I really feel like a lot of people are actually joined together in their differences. I don't feel like among all of that, I don't feel a separation. There is a clear separation between like certain groups in the country, but I feel like we're all kind of, we're all at the same time just like practicing like self-love and, affirming that. Like, I don't know. I don't feel the divide like that.
That's good. That's a good perspective. Maybe it's a concern, and maybe it's not a reality,
or
maybe
an experience thing.
I mean,
I don't know
what
what informed this for you.
Sometimes, I feel like sometimes that in the show culture, which is where I spend a lot of my time recently, of like touring and being around. I'm actually working on an article I'm researching for the Talkhouse, and it's maybe going to be called like, "Why is your audience so white?" or like, and male. Maybe, maybe that's what it's going to be called. But it's basically about the many experience that I've had, either going to a show or performing at a show, and feeling like a lack of diversity and feeling this kind of clickiness or these very delineated spaces that people move in and people are calling people out for. It's a thought that's in process. I'm a little bit unorganized about how I'm presenting it. But
it kind of reminds me of like when we were first coming up and what our crowds were like.
I'm really curious about that, actually. I was wondering.
But now it's not like that anymore. And I think because of time and, like now our crowds are very diverse. Age, gender. Yeah.
So do you feel like they were less diverse when you were first starting out?
Yep.
What was the audience like? What was it like? What was the main?
Mostly, white, young and white. And actually, I just remembered there was a moment in time where we realized that we actually were not being routed to certain areas, and we had a big problem with that.
Oh.
It just reminded me of that. And that was kind of like a fight.
Why, like physically like not physically going to play in certain places?
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Could be that's just where our market was, that's probably why. That was our demographic. That was our market. When we hit places like North Carolina, then it was a little different, but for the most part it wasn't.
Why do you think that your audience was mostly predominantly white young folks at the beginning, at the outset?
Access, I think, to music, for them was easier.
Yeah.
Maybe the marketing. I was really young, so I don't, I'm not exactly 100% sure why.
Yeah. But you feel that that's changed now. You feel that your audience is.
Yeah, I mean, so far
more
in
diverse.
our reunion we've only toured, So, but yeah, it's definitely diverse, a lot more diverse than it was.
Do you think that music audiences might be starting to be a bit more diverse because maybe people have more access than they did?
That makes sense.
Before?
That makes sense. Definitely.
Could be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a complicated question, but it's something that I often ask myself because I went to see, who was it? I went to New Blue last year and I saw this amazing drummer, D'Antoni Parks, and he was playing with a bus driver.
Okay.
And they're both black and the audience was all white. I was maybe like one of two people of color in that club.
Okay.
And I was like, why is this today? Like, why?
And what did you conclude? Or
I don't know. That's when I was like, maybe I should research and try to find out. I don't know what the answer is. And I was like, well, the beer here is like $9. Maybe that's a thing. Like,
and I don't know much about New Blue, but I mean, what is their crowd typically like? Is
I don't know. That's a new space. That's a new space.
Okay.
But historically I see them as a space for diverse audiences to come together and listen to all kinds of music.
Okay.
I don't know. But I also think of New York City as one of the most diverse places in the United States that I can think of. So when that happens, and it happens quite frequently to me, that I go to a show and the audience doesn't look like what the performers look like, not that they should, but that the audience also doesn't even look like what New York looks like. I just ask myself, is it because there aren't the music fans? Is it because they don't have access to the show? Is it an economic thing? Is it marketing? Is it like wherever this was advertised was not a place where there's a diverse group of people that are reading it?
I mean, they're probably not.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Going to the projects and handing out flyers for New Blue. Doubt it.
Yeah.
But, in the internet age, I mean, an educated consumer can find, like if they love Bus Driver, I'm sure they can find,
They're gonna find.
Maybe, does he have a huge audience in New York? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So many factors.
I know he's dope.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
Yeah, he's dope. Yeah. Just something I wonder. Curious about.
Those good questions. Yeah.
What are you working on, or what would you like to be working on coming up?
Well, right now, I'm working on. Well, I have a group called Brooksville, along with 4 other members: Prince Paul, Rodrigo Brandão, and Don Newkirk. So we're starting to just kind of listen for samples, just kind of really listen for samples and decide like how we actually want to. Do we want samples, or do we're even considering like sampling from like our friends' music, or maybe just having them like replay it, and just trying to get away from having to pay for samples, but also have more like control of the music. But so working on that. Diggable, we're about to tour a little bit more this year, and we're figuring out where and how to start like working on a new record. We're pretty interested in, like we were talking about, like destination, like studios, and like going somewhere for like a month.
Yes.
Yeah. So that really we're definitely leaning towards that. So that will take place this year for sure.
That's so also exciting for me to hear.
It's exciting for me too.
I loved the new Brooksville album that came out.
Cool.
Love it. I loved learning about the supergroup and what all of y'all that's what I call it anyway. And like I loved like
those
hearing
labels.
I think it's like superhero shiro groups of people that come together.
Well,
musical super groups.
I don't know. We're like a family, so I don't.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, so I love that, like meshing like the old school like for this last album, the like candomblé influenced music with hip hop was really like fun to just try. We were really trying to create like a new sound, and I hope we achieved it. But we had fun and we love it. So
I think you did. Achieve
we're gonna be touring in Europe late April, early May. No. Something like that. I don't know. It'll go to our website. It'll be up there. We don't have the exact dates yet, but it's coming up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're doing that also. Yeah.
That's so great.
And you?
I am touring a lot. I'm leaving for tour very shortly, a couple days.
Oh, yeah, we wanted you to open for Diggable at Webster Hall, and you dissed us.
I totally did not diss you. I was on the floor when I got that email, literally. I was like, oh my God, but I wasn't going to be here.
I know.
I couldn't believe, I was so mad.
Yeah.
But I was literally
How
on
mad
the
were you?
I was on the floor. I told you. I was on the freaking floor.
You should be under the floor. I'm just kidding.
I agree.
But yeah,
But
how was the tour? Yeah.
It was awesome. It was a great tour. We went all around the US and it just felt really good to play that music kind of for the first time in a lot of these cities and see people coming out and like knowing the words and singing along. It was just like super cool. And and starting to have a diverse audience for the first time too and feeling like, oh wait, this is happening. And like maybe by visualizing it, it's happening, or just feeling that that's important, it's happening. I didn't know why, but yeah, it was great. So I'm looking forward to going back out. We're going to do another national tour of the US, and then we're going to Europe too. So maybe we'll see you there.
Maybe we'll cross paths. Yeah. And so just touring this year, you're going to start working on a new record?
I started writing some new stuff. I'm still in the research mode of trying to find out what this is that I'm doing, because it feels really new to me musically, and like what's coming next and what excites me. Feeling a little bit of an exhaustion from like songs a little bit, and like feeling just like not listening to songs and listening to just kind of some more abstract like noise stuff has been like really helping like just massage my music brain a little bit. Okay. It's been feeling really good. So I've been doing that a lot. And but then as a result of that, I just started writing a song like that I had, that I was kind of in a block, and that I think unblocked it.
Nice.
So yeah, just writing a little bit, getting the new live band set up, always trying to make it better. So making some changes to the setup. But yeah, a lot of touring this year, and hopefully finding time to write and record in between.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to continue watching you grow and your audience get more diverse.
Thank you. I can't wait to see you perform live.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to work something out.
Yeah.
We've got a tour together.
It
would make
amazing.
sense,
It would.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. I would love that. It was amazing to meet you.
Oh my gosh, likewise.
Get to speak with you. Such an honor.
Same here.
So inspiring to get to
I feel
learn
like
I
learned so much about, and like I really see that we have a lot in common. That was like really a cool experience for me.
Me too.
So glad we did this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Elia Einhorn, and you've been listening to Xenia Rubinos and Ladybug Mecca on the Talkhouse Music Podcast. Subscribe on Stitcher or iTunes for upcoming talks. Check out past episodes featuring Mecca's Brookzilla bandmate Prince Paul in conversation with DJ Premier, and also the Flaming Lips Wayne Coyne on the Talkhouse's SoundCloud page or wherever fine podcasts are heard. Today's episode is recorded and mixed by Mark Yoshizumi. Till next time.
All praises due. My praise to you. Now begin life anew.